What sort of improvements would you like to see in the relationship between the promoters and the venues? This is where it could get good. This is where you could get it.
In the current context, in the climate that you see, I think some of the experience that we've had internationally is a lot more permissive as far as commercial, leveraging your risk with commercial opportunity, whether it is from a sponsorship perspective, whether it's in the ticketing arrangements, whether it's in VIP, all of that. So probably in this context, we're looking for more support. I think there's great improvements that can be made in that regard. I mean, sometimes in terms of the rules and regs around what we can and can't do within the venues seem very restrictive, particularly in comparison to what happens in the international context. So certainly we'd like to see some improvements there, some changes there. And I think all of us have been aggressively exploring sponsorship and some innovative commercial arrangements. It's not that easy to bring them to life in every venue, and particularly in some of the major markets where if you are selling out those shows, they are your strongest shows, you want to use that to absolutely drive as much as you possibly can commercially to subsidise the shows that aren't working in Perth or in Brisbane or elsewhere. So absolutely I'd like to see a different sort of relationship. It tends to be a default no, as opposed to a let's get in a room and talk about it and try and come up with a solution that's going to work for everyone and that's going to allow us to make as much money as we can from the opportunity, because the margins are very slim and the risks are high and it's extremely competitive, and now artists are looking to us to try and deliver on that. So it's so that's one of the things I would definitely like to see.
I think as an industry that, and I'm including us in this statement, it's not just venue bashing, Harvey, as you suggested before, but I think the industry lacks still a level of proactivity that would hold us all in better stead, and we're still very reactive. We talk about a turn down in this year's inventory, and we're talking about it now when it was becoming fairly obvious at the end of last year that it was going to be slow in the middle of the year. So then the questions start, what can we do to help? And we're out there working, a year, 2 years in advance, especially in our business. There's a lot of opportunity for development deals we've done with artists to try and prioritise when they can fit to come down here. But we need help in order to be able to do a better job of making that inventory sweat, marketing it without spending our cold hard cash all the time. I still don't think we have a good enough relationship with any of the major venues with regard to effectively using our data and effectively marketing using that data that we've all built up over a very long period across a whole lot of genres, but we still don't really have any insight into how to effectively use it and how to use it really well so that we're saving money in getting people to buy the tickets. We're not doing any analytics on ticket price resistance, and the arenas particularly are in a position where you do see a spread of inventory, a variety, spread of ticket prices. And I don't think there's any analytics that comes out of that to help us be better informed and run a defence in the market to keep ticket prices down or to price certain markets differently. We still have a default approach of pricing every market the same ticket price instead of considering the fact that Brisbane's having a tough time and not selling versus Melbourne, which is more buoyant. So I think that there could be definitely a better analytical relationship and proactivity. Find us the extra GA on the floor so we can sell it instead of telling us on the night that we could have fitted more people out there. On the night when we release 100 extra GA on a floor, we're not going to sell them, but we could have, used that money earlier.
I think that we're also one of the few industries that as promoters, we're not a collegiate. You've got a venue management association. If you're the cotton growing association, you've got a collegiate. Promoters are a disparate group, and so we're individually based. Therefore, I think that's part of our challenge.
You said collegiate, not collusion, right?
Yes. Okay. There's lawyers in the room. I also think the opportunity is that we don't. Having said that, I don't think as an industry we use, not just focusing on the data, I don't think we use from the point of transaction to when they turn up to when they get back in their driveway very well. I think there's a whole lot of experiential factors that we can actually help build an audience for the next event. And I think sometimes we get so, you know, we all get so wound up and focused on our own little part of the world. When it's your own money you're driving and that's all you care about. But I just think, you know, where does the customer service experience start? Where does it finish? And what are we doing as an industry to help grow and build that audience? Because, you know, pay TV wasn't around, you know, 10, 15 years ago. Most people are watching their stuff on their devices. We've got a lot more competition for the dollar, of the leisure dollar. We're, you know, we're a premium product, we're not milk and bread. So how do we actually utilise that and grow an audience more?
I think we've got a very good relationship with with all the venues that we deal with. You know, whenever we've asked for help, we'll get it. You know, most of the venues that we're working with, and obviously we're talking about when shows are in distress or whatever, I find that like venues really come to the party as much as possible. You know, our primary job is to sell the tickets, and if we call upon that help, I've always found like venues are really great at coming at us with different ways to do that. You know, it's an ongoing process. I think when we're talking about what else can be done, it's largely, I think, our responsibility, promoters, to try and like ask the question and find ways to engage you on that, because that's our role in it.
Okay. But there's more that the venues can do. I think there's more the industry can do. I don't think you can just put it at a venue.
Yeah, we're all responsible.
I don't think you just put it at the venue managers or the venue's feed. It's the ticketing company. It's the whole food chain.
Venues should start promoting.
Somebody write that down.
Well, I think there's a reasonable case to have.
Aren't you a venue owner as well now?
Hey?
Aren't you a venue owner as well now?
Not on this panel. No.
Is that right? I think you're just selling your own business there.
I think that there is, you know, I think it would be an interesting development to see some circumstances where, you know, if the market's quiet, the venues and promoters can try and actually create inventory and partner in it. We did it back at Melbourne Park when, you know, when there was no kids product coming through, with you guys as well, when we did the tweenies or whatever it was. And I think that it wouldn't do any harm for there to be a little bit more insight into our side of the business. That's not saying that you should know anything about our side of the business. It's, you know, it's fairly clandestine at times, and you don't necessarily get the insight. But I think that you guys have you know, significant public assets that are expensive to maintain and operate, and if we're not taking the punt on bringing shows through, then the problem trickles all the way down, and it turns into a vicious cycle, I think, where stuff becomes more expensive and it becomes more difficult. What we should be doing is working together to make it easier to get inventory into this market that's sustainable. And you know, I think the dialogue we had this week to get that show into the arena in Perth was great. We need more of it, you know, to try and just make sure that we can continue to run our businesses in a profitable way, and not just hang the rest of the industry on the line based on whether we're doing stuff or not.
I think, you know, operation, to Harry's point, when the question is asked for support from the venues to solve problems or to help certain aspects, that it's rare you get the wrong answer. I mean, it's very helpful in that regard. I think my issue has always been with the starting position, and you know, the venue contracts, which is a favourite bugbear of mine, are very, very one-sided across the board in any venue. Very one-sided. So it does start with the proposition that you really can't do.
I've never actually read it.
you really.
You just signed it. Fuck it.
I mean, on its face, the promoter, the hirer, is under a lot of pressure. And I would think it would be great to see a little bit more reasonableness injected into those documents, reflecting the shared approach to the events that we have. Like, you know, whether it's on the commercial side of things, it's on emergency management, which you talked about this morning, all these things. It just seems to me that the documents don't reflect actually all of the great things that the venues do when they're asked. And you come from a position where you are on the back foot as the hirer, trying to convince the venues to do it, as opposed to saying, let's figure it out together.
I think.